Welcome to this terrain video for the channel. We're talking about setting up tables for more narrative type games, such as the games that we have here on the channel. The balance that we have is nicely themed tables, but as fair as possible with the layout. And then we play like narrative themed games, but at the same time we try and create really good lists to take each other on in battles. So the point of this video is to show you how I propose we may well go with our terrain setups. The idea is to work through this step by step, and then you can replicate that for your own games of 40k. By all means, it seems the vast majority of people are going down the route of just using the app. The app generates your map, gives you your terrain layout, you follow that, and then you play your mission. But there are other ways to play 11th edition, and to the point where your previous setups for 10th edition, so the way we ran terrain here on the channel, just placing the terrain balanced on the board, using these objective markers, that is all still possible. Nothing really is redundant. So I've made a video previously talking about this. You can check it out, talking about terrain options for your games of 11th edition. So before we get stuck in, just to mention our channel sponsors. So for Discount 40k, link below for gaming figures. If you're in the Middlesbrough direction, middle of England, you can check out their gaming store. They have a great setup, so I'll leave a link for their Facebook page as well. And then for battle mats and pre-painted terrain, it's gamemat.eu, using one of their double-sided mats here today, and they're also using some of their pre-painted terrain as well, so link below for them. And you'll also see a discount code for 11% off across the store, and they are shipping worldwide. So for narrative games, I'm thinking of situations where you've got a group of friends come around and you want to get your terrain set up before they arrive, which is common enough to take place, or you are first to arrive at your club and you want to get the terrain set up before everyone arrives, and so on, or you just want to play a nice narrative game of 40k and you just want to create a nice setup for a battle. And it's similar to here on the channel. We like the narrative games, and so that's perfectly possible and falls within the boundaries of a regular game of 11th edition. Because I think what's happened, it's early days here with the edition, but I think Games Workshop have just gone mainstream into tournament mode, because that is the most popular. But I want to try and hold the line here on the channel for narrative players and for casual gamers that want to set up decent tables and put the emphasis on narrative as opposed to competitive. And it's perfectly possible, and hope this video will help you with that. So the first conundrum here, you can see we're using the chapter approved card deck. Comes out of Leviathan box for your standard games of 10th edition. It's using the cards instead of the app, and I'm not going to use the app for any part here of this video. We're talking about deployment maps. These are the 6 options. I was thinking I could place a terrain feature roughly in each of the table quarters, and within that will fall the main objectives, but it's not the case. They do move around. For example, 10 inches in here by 14, that matches up. 10 by 14, that matches up. 10 by 14, that one matches up. But then when you come to Dawn of War, there's nothing here in this corner. There's just one there in the middle, so it's not going to work. 10 by 12, that's close enough, that's okay. But it just starts going wrong here. You've got 15 by 10, that's quite close. But then you've got 24 by 6. So it's just not going to be possible to set up a piece of dense terrain in each table quarter, and your objectives are going to fall within that each time. But it doesn't matter, because in 11th edition, and I'm just pointing this out to people, because people were saying one of the points that was going around was that these are now redundant. Gone are the days of your 40mm round objective markers, but that is not true. If you go to page 88 in your book, it says here, this is really helpful for presetting your terrain board. If the location point of an objective does not coincide with a terrain area, you must donate the location of that objective with a flat circular marker 40mm in diameter centered on that point. This is called an objective markup. So if you don't have an area terrain objective, you can use these instead. So that then means whichever one of these cards comes up for terrain, if we find a situation where an objective needs to be placed and there is no terrain area, we just simply use one of those instead. So whatever setup, whatever deployment map we go for, all is covered. I won't have to start moving terrain around. The terrain can stay exactly where it is. So basically that means that you can set up your terrain however you wish before you know your deployment zone, and you won't have to move anything around. So that's really good news. Games Workshop have catered for that, no problem. So that's good news. And I think at the end of the video, we'll draw one of these and set the terrain up just to show you, or set up the deployment zone. So you then go to your chapter approved little booklet. Talks about create the battlefield, play on a 44 by 60 inch table, which is this battle mat here, gives you a brilliant foundation, perfect size. And then with these as well, the map types, these battle mats are still relevant. They've got all the markings laid out on them for you, and they're all still correct as well, I believe. So that means these mats are still relevant as well. So to create the battlefield, you've got, again, this 11th edition gives you different options. So we recommend, I don't say you have to, we recommend using the suggested battlefield layouts on the 40K app. That's what most people are doing. These layouts were designed for chapter approved battles. So the app matches this deck of cards. If you wish to create your own layout, and that's the route that we're going down, use the following instructions. So roll 1d6. It gives you a method where you can place terrain on the board. With this, it's presuming this is more of a balanced way to do your narrative terrain, and it's where you and your opponent are present, and you can just alternate placing terrain on the board to try and generate a balanced table. So on a 1 to 5, use a single central objective point as shown in the centre of the card. On a 6 instead, use 2 central objective points. Locate these 6 inches either side of the single central objective point. Along the dashed lines, there's the possibility of generating an extra objective. Roll off and take it in turns, placing terrain features starting with the winner. For each objective point, set up 1 terrain feature. So you know your mission, you have your points on the board where the objectives are going to be. You've got to place terrain on that to get them to match up. And you've got to make sure you prioritise here that you have those terrain objectives covered. And then after that, it says then set up any remaining terrain features. So, and then it says determine attacker and defender, and on you go with your game. The route I'm going to go down is, as the opponent's not turned up yet, I want to get the terrain completely finished and ready for a game. And I want it so that we can randomise the game, randomise the mission, and the deployment zone, and it will fit for whatever terrain setup we've done. So really, the only rule I'm going to follow for this is I'm going to try and balance the table out as much as possible, so an even spread of the terrain. I know full well there'll be an objective in the middle, so we'll put an area terrain piece in the centre of the table, and then I will roughly go for the 4 table quarters as well. So in that case, mostly we will have area terrain features for objectives, but we'll see what happens when the map is drawn. So if you go to terrain on page 46, for placing terrain, you've got 2 options. You can go for a boundary as defined by like an extra mat that goes over the top of your battlefield, or you can go for terrain pieces all lined up with each other, and then between yourself and your opponent, you agree where the boundary is. So there's the 2 options. Both are great for narrative. So in this particular episode, and I hope perhaps to produce more, just to give you a few guides on how this can be done, I have one of the pre-cut terrain feature mat sets from gamemats.eu, and that is going to give you your official sizes and layouts for 11th edition. So if you are using the app, for example, this layout is the exactly correct one that you can use. But I'm going to try and use that here on this table, see how we get on. But we'll use these to place terrain onto the table. So you can check out gamemats.eu for these sets. There they are. As I said, it's the full set you need for 11th edition. This particular set, you can get them single-sided, and as you can see, Cyberpunk mat, Cyberpunk terrain feature set as well, matches up perfectly, so it'll blend in really well. So that's great for narrative games. And with this particular set, you can get it double-sided. So when you're using that mat design, you just flip it over and you get double usage out of these sets. So really good, very, very useful indeed. And the advantage of these for area terrain, it's going to give you a clear definition of your edge. So if you're looking for clarity and total fairness in a game, then these are excellent for that. So that's the method, the route we're going to go down for this particular setup. So I'm going to I'll spread these out first to balance them across the table, to give us a nice spread across the board, and then I'm going to try and place terrain features on top of that. If your opponent turns up or you're both working together, then you can alternate, taking turns to place these onto the table first and then add your terrain after. All right, so part of the way through setting up, I have placed these templates out evenly. I've tried to go for a table quarter for a larger feature, dense terrain feature, which an objective most likely will go inside, or that'll be the terrain objective. So one here, one over there, one in the middle, which I've joined two pieces together to try and fit this terrain feature, one there and one there. I have noticed going down this route, terrain looks a little bit more sparse than it usually does for our games. I've also noticed that some of our terrain features don't fit, so I've had to leave some out. So that leaves me a little bit short on terrain. I can bring other stuff in, but my usual terrain set, because I'm having to leave certain pieces out, and sometimes it's larger pieces, I'm a bit short on terrain as well. So I'm finding it quite restrictive for the placement of my usual terrain. So then you've got two routes. You can go down the route of more terrain, new terrain, adjusting your current terrain, and then having some terrain that's just redundant for 11th edition. But I'll press on here. This is the progress so far. I've made use of these walls for the longer sections as light terrain features. And we've got ourselves 5 significant dense pieces of terrain on the board. Alright, so further progress, near completion here. So a standard game wise, good in the fact that I'm actually using the proper templates for terrain, and I've got them all onto the boards. There is a balanced amount of area terrain features in this table. As I said, a bit restrictive though. Certain pieces of terrain I haven't been able to use, but not too bad. I've added some extras like some barricades across here. We can either ignore those in the game just for decorative purposes, or we can use the rules for them. I guess at the end of the day, as long as you and your opponent are in complete agreement pre-game, so before you start the game, what's what. I've used walls along here, some barrels. This is going to be light terrain here. I've added a dense terrain feature. This one, try to add in some features to lift the terrain up. I've noticed in our first games of 11th edition, everything's quite flat and not such a busy table. So I've added a layer on top of here. I've added a walkway, a Munitron container on top just to raise up the height of the terrain. Same across the other side. A few higher pieces of terrain for some smaller dense areas, and again a piece of terrain here I've added on top of the walkway just to try and lift things up as much as possible. I'm wondering about my walkways. Can I still use these to span across, get something to pre-agree with your opponent, because that's always a great feature to have walkways going across the board. But I think there's a bit of a balance going on here. We're using the official layouts for terrain. The table's looking pretty balanced, and we don't know where the map's going to be, so the terrain is spread out. It's not been heaped up somewhere because you know where the deployment zones are going to go. It's pre before that's been determined. So I think it's looking pretty good. The final finishing touch that I usually do is add in some stones and scatter, so I'll do that onto this board now just to finish it off. And that's the thing, that's why I want to get tables set up before we play a game, because I like to add the little features and so on. And that's going to really slow things down from waiting for the opponent to turn up. And then we have to move the terrain around, set it all up. Then it's just going to take time and take time away from the game. So I usually like to get these things sorted out before both armies are ready to go. So that's the case it, narrative. Pretty good balance on this one. We'll finish it off, and then we'll give it a go here and see where these objectives and so on go for some table setups. Alright, so finished. Just little drops of stones scattered around. It just breaks the edge of the terrain up, just blends everything in. We still go by our edge here, which is clearly seen, so it's not going to be a problem. So you're getting that balance between narrative and then the terrain feature outlines. So table looks something like this. I've added some posters on top to give further height to terrain features as well. So I think what we've got now is pretty balanced out across the board. So we'll try this one. Sweeping engagement. Looks something like this. I put out the first objective marker. I don't have to measure up precisely. I know that the center of the board is just there. So this whole terrain feature, as defined by this edge, is quite a large piece with mixed, dense and light terrain. That's going to be one terrain feature just there. We're then going to the left-hand side. So this one we've got 10 by 14, 10 across and 14 up, which is there, which lands just in there, which means this dense terrain area is a terrain feature, or an objective terrain feature. Then over on the right-hand side, 14 in and 10 across. So 14 takes us there, and then 10 across. Yeah, it's about there. So another feature across here. Then round to the other side of the table, 10 inches in, to there. It's all marked, the inch markings are on this mat, it's really handy. And 14 across, 14's there. So brilliant, we've got ourselves another terrain feature. So you can still use these to define your objective terrain on the board. And this one is 14 and 10, so here's a tricky one. So 10 across, which is running just along that line, and then 14 in, which takes us to there. So I would say that piece is going to be just fine for that. It falls just on the edge. So there we've got our 5th objective terrain feature. So haven't had to use any of these on their own in the open. We've got ourselves 5 objective terrain features on this table without having to move any terrain around. Personally, I'm not so keen on the restrictiveness of the fixed terrain on the board. It's really anti-narrative, to be honest about that, because it's so set and symmetrical and so on. It's the opposite of what we're trying to do with narrative tables, so you get a bit more natural looking and random terrain features, but at the same time try to be balanced because you're trying to play it as a tabletop game. With this, you're getting the same terrain mats and features, fine. Still a good spread of terrain, it's just not fixed in place as you see on the app for your deployment zones. But it conforms to the card deck, so it's compliant in that regard. Next up, we'll try Dawn of War, because this one I thought was one of the tricky ones. So for this one, we have a terrain feature 19 inches in and 10 across. So this one's going to be tricky. It's going to be 10 in and 19 up. That takes us right to there. So in this situation, we'll use an objective marker out on its own. And that is fine, as we read earlier on page 88. You can do that. The rules for that are it needs to be flat, 40 millimeters diameter and circular, which is what these are, so they're not redundant. And then the rules are units need to be within 3 inches, wholly or partially, to count as being range of that objective marker, for OC control and so on. So to have that in the open, not inside a terrain feature, is perfectly legitimate, and it falls within the boundaries of a game of 11th edition. We'll go for the next one. It's here in the middle. So it's 10 inches in along the 30 line, and 10 takes us to there. So again, it's going to be one that's like that, but totally fine. And then we'll go on to the right hand side. It's 19 and 10 again. 19 is here and 10 is there. So this one's going to fall. So these are all going to be in the open, apart from the central objective. Then around the other side of the board, that one's going to find itself most likely on its own as well. So just measuring in on this one. 10. Yeah, it's just out. If not, you could count that as a terrain feature. I'd have to get an actual measurement on that one. Going by 10 across. That may well fall just in. So that one could be, whichever way it works out, either this could be a terrain feature, in which case you just place the mark on the terrain, like so, or if it's just out, I can double check later on that can just sit just outside the terrain feature like so. So either way, and because we're playing with a narrative twist, it doesn't matter, and at the same time it's still compliant for a standard game of 11th edition. So I hope that's given you a flavour of how it can be done. You don't have to go down the route of using the app. You don't have to go down the route of having to play the same terrain setups over and over and over and over again. You can go narrative. We haven't house ruled anything here for this terrain setup. This has all gone by as it is in the book, and you're able to, in this particular situation, set up an entire table ready to play any of the missions, any of the maps that come up, and I've done that before the opponent arrives. I've just tried to create a balanced table. Now when the opponent does turn up, you can say to them, do you like the look of the terrain, do you want to move anything around? So you can do that if you wish as well, just to make sure it's balanced. The opponent could choose obviously what side of the table they play on as well, so there's no point trying to heap up one side of the board to your advantage. You could end up the other side of the table and so on. So good spread of play, and the way 40k works, units deep striking in, turn up on flanks, rushing forwards. There's no point building a castle in the corner of the table because you need to spread out all over the table anyway. So as balanced as possible with a table, it's fair for everybody, and you may well need even terrain right in the far corner of the table, because your forces may end up over there during the game. So I hope to create more videos in this series just to give you an idea. I'd love to hear back through in the comments section below. What do you reckon about these terrain setups that we're doing? Are you doing the same? Are you tempted to do the same? What's your experience with the app so far, with the fixed terrain features for missions? Do you like it or not? Let us know in the comment section below. Now, obviously, for tournament play, then you've got fixed terrain that's totally even. I totally get it, fully understand. You need fairness and symmetry and transparency when you're playing tournament style 40k. But for narrative, we don't have to go down that route. You can keep the beauty of your terrain setups from previous editions, using the same terrain, even using the same objective markers. That can all be catered for within 11th edition. So that's the route we want to go down. We want to just continue to give you great tables and not feel they're being restricted or limited or looking empty on the table, but fill up with terrain for you to enjoy our games. But at the same time, compliant with 11th edition and balanced out for fair games, semi-competitive battles of Warhammer 40,000 11th edition. So that's the video. Do leave a thumbs up. Keep a lookout for more in the series. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. I'd love to hear back from you as well. And check out gamemat.eu for your pre-painted terrain and battle mats. And for all of your Warhammer needs and beyond, it's gaming figures. Link for them below as well. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.